It is great to be here with you at Manchester Metropolitan University, and I want to thank all of you for having us here. I know it is exam day, and I can only wonder what the people who are doing the exams are facing in terms of concentrating, but I want to thank you all for having us here. I want to say a very, very big thank you to particularly all of the people in this audience who are studying to enter our National Health Service. Let's give a massive round of applause to all of you. And I'd also like you to put your hands together for somebody else, and that is John Brooks, the Vice-Chancellor here at the university. Now, some of you may know that John is going to be retiring in May after, I believe it's 10 years in post. So please put your hands together for an incredible Vice-Chancellor, John Brooks. Now, you're going to have a chance to ask me questions, and we've even got an ambition to get microphones right up to the gods there, but it may take some time. I'm going to say a few words for about 10 minutes or so about the NHS, and then we'll take your questions, we'll take some media questions as well. Look, you know the general election is getting closer and closer, and there's just over 2 weeks to go now. And I think that's just over 2 weeks to decide what the future of our country looks like. And, you know, some people will say it's just a competition between parties or between leaders. I don't think it's that at all, actually. I think it's a choice between two different visions of the country. I think it's about carrying on with the Tory way, which is basically based on the idea that as long as you look after those at the top, the wealth will trickle down to everybody else, and cutting services back to the bone, or a Labour vision, a different vision, a vision of a recovery that goes beyond the City of London and reaches the front door of every working family in our country, and a vision that says we must invest in our vital public services. And I think we can agree on this. There is nowhere this choice matters more than in regards to our National Health Service. I don't need to tell you here that the NHS is the most precious institution in our country. And we all here have our own reasons why we love the National Health Service. It looks after us when we're born, it cares for us when we're sick, and so often cares for us in our final days of life. I say the NHS is the proudest achievement of our country and the envy of the world. But I believe also the NHS is facing one of its gravest threats since its foundation. We know it's been going backwards under this government. It's got harder and harder to see a GP. More and more elderly people who can't get the care they need at home. And when that happens, as you know, the problems pile up in hospital. Patients stuck outside hospital in ambulances because A&E is full. Seriously ill people waiting for treatment lying on corridors for hours after hours. And so often, doctors, nurses and midwives are rushed off their feet, unable to do the job they are properly trained to do. You know, recently, a survey found that 2/3 of nurses today say patients are missing out on care because there just aren't enough nurses on the wards. And today we hear that 1 in 3 NHS trusts were investigated last year over safe staffing. Now, none of this happened by accident. It's because of decisions that were made. It's because of choices this government made. A government that has wasted billions of pounds on a top-down reorganisation that nobody wanted and nobody voted for. And I well remember David Cameron going to the nurses' conference and saying there'd be no more of those top-down reorganisations that promised change and instead caused chaos, and that is exactly what happened. It's a government that's cut nurse training, meaning we don't now have enough nurses, and it's a government that's cut back on GP services and care for the elderly, increasing the pressure on hospitals. And also something else. It's a government that has overseen a creeping privatisation of our NHS, with a Health and Social Care Act that sees precious NHS resources spent on accountants and competition lawyers. Now, friends, that's not the NHS I believe in, it's not the NHS you believe in, and I believe it's not the NHS the British people want to see. Now, of course, there's an election on, so it's all change, and the Conservatives say they're committed to spending more on the NHS, but they're going to double the spending cuts next year, And that's bigger spending cuts in the next 3 years than we've seen in the last Parliament. And they want you to believe that they're going to spend more, with money they can't identify from a place they cannot name. Now, I've just got to say to you, these are promises that can't be believed. They're false promises with an expiry date of May the 8th stamped on them. And you know there is nothing more dangerous for the future of our National Health Service than pretending you're going to pay for it with an IOU. And what do the Tories say about how they're going to find this money? They say, just look at our record. Well, we have, and it's failed. I have a direct message for the British people. For 5 years, the NHS has gone backwards. For the next 5 years, if the Conservatives are returned to power, the NHS will be starved of funds and it will face a rising tide of privatisation. This is the truth. David Cameron is now a mortal danger to the NHS. We have a fortnight to fight for our NHS. We have a fortnight to rescue our NHS. That's why the country needs Labour's immediate rescue plan for the National Health Service, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. The central idea is this, that we must invest in the NHS with a fully funded plan so it has time to care. And we've got to join up services at every stage, from home to hospital, so you get the care you need where you need it. That's how we make the NHS sustainable and successful for years to come. So, we'll have a mansion tax on properties worth over £2 million. We'll raise extra money from the tobacco companies. And we'll do something that our opponents would never do. We'll clamp down on tax avoidance, including by the hedge funds. And we'll use that money for a plan to transform services and have 20,000 more nurses, 8,000 more doctors, 5,000 more care workers, and 3,000 more midwives. Now, what does that mean? That means we have what every nurse wants, what every doctor wants, what every patient wants, which is an NHS with time to care. And this will be investment, not for an NHS that stands still, but one that keeps up with the challenges of the time. You know, the thing I've learnt most of all from visiting NHS hospitals is that what goes on inside a hospital is defined by what goes on outside in the community. In other words, a hospital can only succeed if it has strong services in the community supporting it. When people can't go and see their GP, you know they end up in A&E instead. When problems with mental health aren't spotted at school or work, people end up in crisis, needing more intensive support. When elderly people can't get the care they need at home, they're more likely to struggle, grow ill, or have a fall and end up in hospital. In each and every case, failing to act early is worse for the person involved, and it costs more for the NHS too. We have to give people the right care at the right time in the right place, and that is what we'll do. We'll hire more doctors by saving resources on privatisation and bureaucracy, and guarantee everyone who wants it a GP appointment within 48 hours. Our new care workers, 5,000 new care workers, will be a new arm of the NHS to help elderly people with the greatest needs. And we will meet the central challenge of the 21st century with integrated, not fragmented services. And this is incredibly important because, you know, I think there are lots of reasons to keep the NHS public and putting the right values at the heart of the NHS. But it's not just a principled values issue, it's a pragmatic issue about how the NHS succeeds. You need integrated services that enable care, compassion and cooperation, not competition, fragmentation and privatisation, and that's why we'll repeal the Health and Social Care Act to put an end to that ideology. But to save the NHS from the trouble it's in, we can't wait. With A&E in crisis, staff shortages and hospitals weighed down by large deficits, this plan has to start immediately, straight away, with real money now. So today I can announce that in our first 100 days, our first budget, our first year in office, we'll begin to bring in the funds from the mansion tax and the tobacco levy. And we will use that money to support the NHS with our immediate rescue plan. An emergency round of nurse recruitment, funding for 1,000 extra training places this year, getting extra resources into the NHS right from the very start. First things first, the next Labour government will start by saving the NHS. And the thing about this investment is it will begin easing frontline pressures as soon as we can. It will begin to bring down the spiralling bill for agency staff, which you all know about. It will begin opening the doors of places like this to more and more talented young people, giving them the opportunities they need. And to do this on their first day in office, Labour ministers will instruct officials to write to colleges and universities, including this one, to call on them to reopen admissions for highly oversubscribed nursing courses this year, so we can make an immediate start. And we'll take further action too, so we can get more nurses on the ward straight away and persuade nurses to stay in practice and also return to practice. This is all part of our plan for 20,000 more nurses. And let me just say this to all of the student nurses here today. By putting more resources in, it will mean there are jobs for you to go to in our National Health Service. So your training will be worthwhile and you'll be able to enter the National Health Service because that is what you want to do. And using your dedication, your commitment and your compassion for the health of the country is essential. But that's only the start of our rescue plan for the NHS. We're also going to begin immediate planning to avoid an A&E crisis this winter, improving GP access and ensuring there are GPs in all A&Es, increasing the number of clinically trained NHS staff on the 111 phone line, and will take action to tackle the increasing scandal of delayed discharges, where patients end up stuck in hospital when they could be being looked after at home. And there's one other thing. We'll immediately halt the cost and chaos of privatisation in our NHS, with a bill sent to Parliament to repeal the Health and Social Care Act within the first 100 days of a Labour government. Because the right principles and the right care go hand in our National Health Service. So this is our plan, and as I look around this room, I know you are the future of the NHS. We have the best doctors and nurses in the world, the pride of our country. Our job, my job as Prime Minister, will be to help you do all you can to make the difference, to care, to keep our country well. A better plan for the NHS today, a better plan for the NHS in the future. You know, Labour's commitment to the NHS is part of who we are. We've got just 17 days to start to make that difference. Let's not let the NHS slip further and further backwards. Let's show this idea was right for our parents and our grandparents and is right for our children and grandchildren too. Let's rescue our NHS. Let's make sure it is there for our country. Together, I believe we can make change happen in our country by electing a Labour government. Thank you very much.